All right. Despite what the clocks in the room say, it is 6 o'clock. We'll adjust those tomorrow, I guess. I'd like to call the Planning Commission meeting for October 17th to order. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Bach?
Here.
Commissioner Stoker?
Here.
Commissioner Barnes?
Here.
Commissioner Goldberger?
You got it here.
Okay, here. Alderman Parrish?
Here.
Mayor Nurbin?
Here. We're thinly clinging to a quorum. So thanks everyone who showed up. First up, we have approval of the minutes from last month. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any comments, questions, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. First up, we have a public hearing for Donges Bay LLC. Applicant is seeking the conditional use grant approval to allow for a daycare center previously approved on June 28th, 2021 for the property located at 1415 West Donges Bay Road, to be referred to as the Alaska Learning Center. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're in public hearing. Is there anyone here from the public who wishes to speak? I don't have any cards, but if there is, now would be an appropriate time to come to the podium. Okay, seeing none. Is anyone here to talk about the conditional use for the daycare? Seeing no one from the public wishing to speak, is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Who's going to give staff report? Lori is?
As you mentioned, that this is actually just an extension of the original conditional use. Our conditional use grants require that the approved use commence within 12 months, but unfortunately, due to unforeseen reasons, the daycare was unable to do that. So therefore, they're here requesting extension. The applicant has addressed several site issues since the last time that conditional use grant was issued. But there's no proposed changes to the daycare operations. Therefore, staff recommends approval of this extension.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? I see Alderman Parrish, Commissioner Parrish.
There were some changes, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
There were some changes from the original approval. If you could just highlight those. Wasn't it the number
Sure.
of
So
children and hours of operation?
I don't have any changes to hours of operation. However, there was
Like the
a
weekend
removal
hours.
of a monument sign, and then there were some site issues that were addressed, including the landscaping.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought the weekend hours were new.
No, we did not we didn't add anything
Okay.
hours-wise.
Sorry, these are really bad microphones. You have to get really
No,
uncomfortably
we did
close
not
to them.
change the hours since the last time.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't have any changes to the hours either. Thank you.
Everything's pegged here to the max. So, like if it was Spinal Tap, we could turn it to 11. But there's no 11. Any further questions from the commission? If not, is there a motion?
I move to approve the extension with staff recommendations. Second.
Motion and a second. Commissioner Parrish, one more
Just
comment?
point of order. If you read, sorry, I didn't just say this when I was talking. I believe there's an error on page 22 and 23 of the packet. It has the hours of operation at 6:30 a.m. That's in the actual, what the mayor is going to be asked to sign. Whereas the approval seems to be for 7 a.m., correct? So if you go to page
And what packet page are those?
22, 9A of the Planning Commission packet. So this is the actual the conditional use grant. And if you look at item 9A, it says the hours of operation are going to be 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Whereas I believe it's going to be 7 a.m. So the mayor's going to sign something different than what we're approving.
I think there was a conversation last time about this, so the actual hours where the parents can drop off kids are going to be from 7 until 6. However, I think there was a conversation last time saying that do we need to actually start at 6:30 for the teachers to get there half an hour early. So maybe that's why there is a discrepancy between the two.
Pretty different than hours of operation, so.
Yeah, this is something the former mayor used to have an issue with, where we kind of limited the hours of operation to the actual business hours. He felt at the time it didn't give enough time before or after for the employees to come and go, and so we typically add a little bit of a buffer to that hours of operation, and I'm assuming that's why it was 6:30 versus 7.
I'd just like to make a friendly amendment to modify 9A to 7 a.m.
Would you like to do that with the clarification that it's 7 a.m. for child drop-off? Still, I mean, staff has to get there at least a few minutes early.
Staff can arrive anytime.
Okay. I think that's an appropriate amendment.
Second.
Okay, we even have a second. Okay. Okay, and a third.
And just a couple of an updates. First of all, I do apologize for not being able to meet the regional deadlines. I personally had the health issue that took me out of my A game for 6 months. But we are ready to go. Like, we had some delay in getting the furniture. We've been waiting for some pieces for quite some time, but today we actually had the first pre-inspection and everything went very smooth. So everything inside of the building is done. Now it's really waiting for the state to get the approval through the inspections.
Fantastic. We're glad to have you, even if it's a little bit later than planned.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Otherwise, let's call the roll on this one.
Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Goldberger, Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoker,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Mayor Nerben.
Aye.
Vote passes.
Congratulations. I wish you luck in opening.
Thank you so much.
Now we're on to regular business. First item is Nofke Roofing LLC. You might recall this item was on our agenda last month. This one's coming back for a second swing. The applicant is seeking reconsideration to allow for modifications to a previously approved condition condition on September 19th, 2022 regarding the gate material for the property located at 10341 North Granville Road. Laura, you taking this one as well?
Yes, sir.
I think you need a motion to reconsider it.
Oh, we do, don't we? You're right, yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that item is back before us. Take it away.
Sure. Thank you. So as you mentioned, this was last heard at the September 19th meeting, and unfortunately, due to some process error issues and the applicant not really understanding how the consent agenda operates, he did not feel like he had an opportunity to object to the condition in the staff report, and so he asked to have this reconsidered. As noted in the memo of your packet, he did have a couple of reasons why he wanted this to be reconsidered, including that the uncoated fence was already installed in the days following the approval. There's an increased cost associated with this black vinyl coating. The gate will be partially closed or partially obscured from the road when open due to a row of evergreens located on the south side of the driveway. But you will still be able to somewhat see it when you're approaching from the north. The galvanized steel gate is more visible at night when people are entering the driveway. And he also stated that the fully fenced in storage facility down the street, which is zone B5, has a similar gate. Staff would like to note that Mr. Nofke's property is zoned R2 with a conditional use grant to operate the roofing business from this premise. Mr. Nofke does not object to any of the other conditions of approval. Mayor?
All right, so we probably would have had this conversation last month, but this item was on consent, and I think we blew through it fairly quickly, and this got lost in the confusion. So I happened to drive past this property tonight on the way here from my other job, and I can confirm that the fence is mostly obscured by a row of evergreens.
It's evergreens.
Yeah, and I also drove past the A1 storage down the street. There's quite a collection of chain link fence down there. So I don't know how the rest of the commission feels. This is in the ground now. And I understand staff's desire to have the black vinyl coating as a increased aesthetic, but it is in the ground now. So I don't know how people feel about it. Maybe we allow it, maybe we just request it gets painted, I don't know.
I would agree with you that it doesn't appear necessary to me to go with a vinyl. Yes, it's nicer. But I'm not, in that I live in that area and go through that area, it just doesn't appear necessary.
So we originally requested it because this is typical, well, typically we wouldn't even allow the chain link, correct?
Correct, and this is still considered a residential property.
Mm-hmm.
And the conditional use grant was basically issued to allow that roofing company to continue operating off the premise.
So perhaps our remedy is, if it ever goes back to a residential use, that the fence should go with it. I don't know how we record such things.
I apologize, could you speak into the microphone, please, so we can pick it up? Thank you.
What I said is I don't view the change as particularly material. The gate is obscured during the day when it's open. I don't see any reason to require a change to what's there. Seems fine.
Any further comments?
Almost sounded like a motion.
It sounded pretty close to a motion. Well, maybe it'll turn into one.
I would move that we approve the change allowing for a galvanized gate with no further conditions.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments from the commission? If not, let's call for a roll.
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoker,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldberger,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Gentis,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Mayor Newman.
No, but it passes anyway.
Passes 6-1.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.
The next item is Wade Wiseman, Architects. Applicant is seeking a specimen tree removal to allow for a new home construction located at 606 East Juniper Court. Will Lori be giving the staff report as well?
No, I thought
Or is this one Jack?
Mike Keys will.
Oh. Mike, come on up. I don't know how I missed you back there.
Good evening. So the applicant is seeking they're doing a house raising or a home raising on 606 Juniper Court. As part of that home raising, there are 2 trees that would be impacted. The 2 trees it's an 11-inch bur oak and a 19-inch white cedar, both on the northeast side of the corner of the existing home. There should be a map in the packet that kind of shows where the 2 tree locations are. Yeah, they're with the marked removals. There they are. So this doesn't show you can kind of see the dotted lines of the imprint of the existing home. The 2 removals are X'd out kind of in red. You can see how the new home would impact. I do believe the forestry department is advising that we agree to or recommend the 2 removals based on just even the house raising by itself. Even if they weren't going to do the new construction to the extent that it is right now, just based on the raising of the existing home, neither one of those trees would make it just because of the proximity. So That is why we move forward with the recommendation for removal. It is fair to note on this property that there's a couple of trees that in the memo you can kind of see. I did outline some areas of concern. One in particular is right up by the front garage to the west side of the house. There's a 47-inch bur oak that exists up there right now. I believe that corner of the garage is about 16 feet from that bur oak, which I think is they're not requesting removal status on that tree, but I'm very concerned about that tree. I've had some conversations with Weissman, Michael Langer at Weissman specifically to say that that really concerns me with where that drive placement is, where the impacts of not only the removal, but the impacts of the new garage could impact that. I mean, you guys have all heard me say legacy before, but that is a true legacy oak. I mean, it's a 47-inch bur oak that's been there a long time. I mean, I would venture to guess that that's probably a 250-year-old oak. So I have some major concerns about that tree in specifics, as well as there's a list in the packet in the memo. There's 4 other trees on the kind of north side of the property that I also have some concern with. One in particular is a 20-inch hickory that I believe is really old as well. So I know they weren't going forward with requesting removal on those. I just wanted to state that in a meeting that those are definitely concerns of mine, concerns that I did share with Weissman Architects. And they can't, I mean, the main concerns is they can't even protect those trees the way we would require them to be protected. So normally we would require diameter times 1 for fencing, and the optimum would be a diameter times 1.5, but we have gone down to diameter times 1. And on a 47-inch oak, you'd be at 47 feet out from the trunk, and that's not possible with the way this is proposed. The only argument I have there is the fact that there was a house on the lot that fit the footprint with the existing trees there, and now the house that's being proposed is substantially bigger, and it's just a very large concern of mine that those trees won't ultimately make it with the construction footprint the way it is.
Is that a concern for the roots underground, or?
Yeah,
Structure?
absolutely. I mean, the construction impacts alone, I mean, even if you were able to stay somehow float, I mean, where the garage is, and even though there's not a basement under it, there's still going to be somewhat of an overdig for the footprint of the garage. And then they're actually, I believe they're moving where the swing of the drive comes in, and that's all going to be hard surface. There's kind of a dotted line on there that represents an existing retaining wall, which is fine. I mean, the tree is no worse for the wear with that retaining wall there, but that's being proposed to be taken out and hard surface replace it. So that is a longevity concern of mine for sure. But I wanted the members to be aware of those things, because they're not proposing to remove those trees, but I've shared with Weissman Architects of my concern of the impacts. Even the distance with the trees to the north, I believe, is very slim. I think it's 14 to 15 feet, and I just think that there's no way, unless you would restrict all and any construction traffic just to the south side of the home up to that kind of north corner, there's no way that you won't see impact on those trees. It's definitely a concern of mine.
But we're only approving the 2 trees
Correct.
indicated. Okay. I'm not sure what to do about the others other than to know we're concerned.
I really wanted the members to just be aware of it. It's definitely just a concern of mine. I know they're not moving for. I'm going. I'm definitely recommending the approval on the 2, because I don't think they can raise the house without impacting those 2 trees. But I wanted it to be at least said in a public meeting that I was concerned about those 2 trees, or those other trees. Sorry.
Any comments or questions from the commissioners? Commissioner
So
Bach.
what would be your plan to protect those trees? So we've heard, the concerns. How would we be, what would be the plan, knowing all that information, to do everything possible to protect that? And have you thought about that?
We haven't specifically discussed this with our own arborist, but I would certainly look towards some selective pruning and potentially air spading for the excavation of the garage immediately adjacent to the tree. A tree like that is certainly a pretty significant contribution to the property, and I don't believe that it is in our client's interest or their personal desire to lose that tree. We like the aesthetic that having a mature tree immediately adjacent to our new construction, so we would be looking to make efforts to preserve and protect it. Just to note, we do have a relatively constricted buildable area between the bluff setback and the various adjacent trees, and so we do look forward to some accommodation from this organization. I'm not sure if I'm aware of the other trees specifically that you were referring to that you had concerns about.
Yeah, it's
I am aware of the two along the property line outside of our buildable area. Yeah.
Could we just go through each of those? I mean, could you point those out somehow on there so we're all know what we're talking about, at least with a pointer?
So the two that we're specifically asking for relief on are, one of them is within the gray shaded area of the proposed new residence in the top right corner on the screen. So you'll see there is a circle with an X that's roughly red. There you go. And then the other one is immediately to its left.
This is the 11-inch burr, and this one is the 15-inch, or is a 19-inch white cedar. These trees right here that are the closest in proximity to are the four that I listed. I believe it's this one is the 20-inch hickory that's listed on the sheet.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for the concern there is, again, I think this distance, like I said, I was told that this distance is about 16 feet from the corner of this garage. So here's the oak. These are some smaller scale hickories and bur oaks, I believe, that are represented here. But again, the 20-inch hickory was my primary concern, just because that, with how tight that is on that side, understanding the nature of construction, I don't feasibly see how you can get construction traffic between a 15-foot space between that tree and where the new proposed house is, and not impact that to some degree, unless you would restrict all construction activity again, so that they'd have to come around this side of the house to access.
Well, and that side of the house is actually encumbered by some transformers and other
Right.
equipment. Yeah.
I assume it's the desire of your client to maintain those trees. I'm sure it adds a lot to the aesthetic of the lot. I think there's a natural interest for the developer to want to maintain them.
Oh, no, this is a homeowner. This is for a single family. So there is no developer that's associated with this project.
Okay, well, yeah, their contractor. They'll be unhappy with you if something happens to those trees, I'm assuming.
I do think they would be, yes.
So we're just talking about the two trees. I guess I don't know what we can do about the other ones other than worry.
Yeah, the only thing I think, sorry, I don't know your name, but air spading would be a start, requiring a micro macro pack, where you would do some pre-construction feeding on those trees so that they could endure some root impact then without showing signs of distress. I'm not promising anything. I mean, 16 feet to an oak that big that's used to not having anything else around it is going to be an impact. I mean, there's no doubt that I wouldn't be surprised to see flagging in the canopy where you're going to see some tip dieback, you're going to see some branch dieback, as a whole. I'm just hoping that that's all it is instead of, half the tree just not making it, because it'd be a shame to see that big of a tree just not make it from these impacts. So
Commissioner Bach.
I mean, I guess I'd be inclined to support the removal of those two, but you mentioned you had an arborist, or you worked with an arborist, or you.
We haven't engaged an arborist yet, but
Yeah.
we certainly would be prepared to do so.
Yeah, so I mean, if you could engage that arborist, and that arborist could work with the city forester and do everything, or at least talk and do everything possible to come up with a plan
Sure.
to preserve those other trees, I think I would support this.
Yeah.
I think that was my ultimate goal, was just to put it in front of the commissioners to have an idea that this could represent a real problem. And I wanted on record to say that these are trees of concern in case something happens there. But I think that would definitely work.
That sounded like the beginnings of a motion.
Okay, so I'll move to approve the removal of the two trees as identified, with the understanding that the developer will work with an arborist, who in turn will work with the city forester to try everything possible to come up with a plan before construction to preserve those 5 trees of concern.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions?
Just would like to have the motion amended to add the word reasonably possible, because there's got to be some economic reality to this. And anything possible is I think, too impactful on the whole.
I'll accept that.
The best faith
Agreed.
effort.
Best
yeah.
faith, yeah.
Okay, a motion and a second. Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner Goldberger. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Happy raising and reconstruction.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ideal Property Management for PJL 11124 LLC. The applicant is seeking a minor request for a Christmas tree lot for the property located at 11120 through 11140 North Cedarburg Road, otherwise known as the Riverside. Who from staff will be introducing? Is this Lori as well? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant is requesting a temporary use approval for a Christmas tree lot at the Riverside Shopping Center located at the southeast corner of Mequon Road and Cedarburg Road. The lot will operate from November 14th through December 31st between the hours of 9:30 in the morning to 8 p.m. The lot will sell trees, wreaths, and other holiday decorations. But besides sales, they're also proposing to do a couple special events, including ice carving demonstrations and reindeer games with live reindeer. So little fun, a little holiday spirit. Approximately 2 to 3 employees will be on the site during business hours. The Riverside Shopping Center is part of the Town Center District and contains Mr. B's restaurant and several other retail and office uses. The site plan shows that the temporary use will consume approximately 30 parking stalls and will block off a portion of the parking lot drive lane right through here. Let me just see if I can quick show you. So all that will be blocked off, but you can still go and enter through this way here and down. The sales area will be fenced in using a 4-foot tall plastic fencing as shown. Thank you. You can really make that out very well. Sorry for the technical difficulties. There we go. So that's the 4-foot tall plastic fencing that we're talking about. Many fluorescent lights will be strung around the perimeter and within the sales area on wood poles. Barrels wrapped in burlap and decorated with holiday wreaths will serve as anchors for the fencing and beams used to hang the lights. One of our concerns is the staff. There's a proposed 8-foot by 20-foot office trailer, which is proposed to be positioned near the intersection facing Cedarburg Road. The applicant indicates that they'll be seeking a banner permit for signage and that holiday music will be played on site, but the applicant states that it won't be audible outside of the property lines. Staff have several concerns about this proposal, including the number of parking spaces and sales lot the sales lot will consume, the blocking of the drive lane, its impact on existing businesses, especially during the proposed special events. We anticipate that's going to be very popular, and since it's such a unique feature. Staff is also concerned about the tremendous amount of funds and effort to revitalize this area and would like to remind the commission that we've been holding this area to a higher design standard and feel that the plastic fencing and proposed use and location of the office trailer will detract from the appearance of this intersection. With all of these stated concerns, staff recommends denial of the temporary use and feels that there is other places in our community that are much more conducive to this type of use. Mayor?
Thank you. Would the applicant like to counter any of that before we get into questions?
Absolutely. I'm the owner of Ideal for 34 years. We have a tree lot located in Shorewood. It's Spectre Park, going on 22 years, and another tree lot at St. Monica's Parish in Whitefish Bay for 60 years. It's just been kind of a delight of mine, kind of this old school tree lot, that we create this environment that families year after year come there, and it's pretty unique tradition for a lot of these families. The majority of my business affiliates, both Shorewood, Whitefish Bay, Fox Point, Mequon, we send out coupons. It's a pretty festive location. I understand the high standards the community requires. I would love for some of the board members for Shorewood or Whitefish Bay to be sitting next to me and saying how much of an asset it is for this 45-day period to the community. It is my utmost importance to give this feel of an experience, not just selling trees. It's really more about kind of a sense of community. We do, the staff is, our elves. We dress them as elves. The music, the reindeers that we bring in are contracted service that we bring in. They set up a corral. The kids could take photos, feed the reindeer. It's just been a great, asset to these other two communities. I've looked at, I do work for the owner of that location, that shopping center. We take care of the grounds across the street there to the west, the Piggly Wiggly shopping center, year round. But I'm just trying to think of other locations that would be free and clear of obstruction to traffic or distraction to traffic. I think it's an optimum location with all the shrubbery there off that corner. I think it would kind of disguise any type of nuisance.
And I apologize, I did forget to mention one thing, is that our community has a fundraiser event put on by the Optimist Club every year, and it's actually held in the competing corner across the street. And they, as they are every year, have been approved again to operate on that corner, so we would have two Christmas tree sales lots against each other. And I apologize, if you could also provide your full name too, just for the record.
I'm sorry, Richard Dasso.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bach.
And that was my biggest concern, what you mentioned at the end, because I know that group has high school kids working there. I mean, that is like community spirit, and they give back to the community, they give grants back, and to have a kind of competing sale right across the street was my biggest concern for that long-standing group. I don't know. I think that would not look good. So that's why I would be in favor of finding another place in the city for this, because I think it is a very, I've seen it at St. Monica's in Whitefish Bay.
The Optimist Club, which I've talked to the folks there last year, they sell approximately 220 trees a season. This last year, I'm not looking to compete. I think the other 2 tree lots, we sell approximately 1,500 trees and over 1,000 wreaths at those locations. I think they were out of tree stock by December 5th last year. Our trees are a bit more expensive than theirs, so I don't look to infringe on any of their sales. I think this community could support, a 1,500 tree lot.
Any further comments on some of the technical challenges with the site? I think, like many things, we don't always pick winners and losers. We're not here to create anti-competition. Although I do understand the differences in the sales in your business strategy. One of my concerns is just shutting down maybe a quarter of this whole parking lot and traffic flow through it. But Commissioner Parrish has a comment, maybe along the same lines.
I was you're reading my mind. First of all, we don't pick winners and losers, so you feel bad for the Optimist Club, but we don't do that. I think staff's concerns about the corner are very legitimate. And by the way, I think you have a very creative business idea, and I think it would be an asset to the community. So thank you for the idea and making a proposal. I was going to ask if it is absolutely required to have the trailer. Can we remove the trailer? I know it's common to have a trailer, but it is. I do agree with staff's point about that location, and it's a prominent location. And my other question is, can we cut back like the tree lot in half? Just looks like you're taking up a significant portion of the lot, which relies on the traffic flow, and there is a lot of traffic there on weekend nights especially. So that could be dangerous. So I'd be a little more receptive to it if there wasn't a trailer there and if it was half the size and didn't impede traffic and so on.
Well, I'd greatly appreciate any opportunity here. Definitely cutting the lot in half would be the owner, John. When I met with him, he was all on board out of the gates. So, Sherwin-Williams shares that location, and Mr. Bees, and he was the one who says, well, this is the footprint I would be tolerable of having. So I'd be very acceptable cutting that lot in half. The trailer, I could, from the standpoint of folks coming there and stepping into the trailer, paying. We have 2 staff members in there custom decorating wreaths and garland. So that's kind of our supply house. People could have custom made wreaths and decorations. So I could, reduce that trailer in half. We do decorate that trailer. The other tree lots, we have a light tower and we have, restrooms that we kind of camouflage. So we have the ability to conceal the trailer with Christmas trees. We sell from 2-foot to 20-foot Christmas trees. So I'd be receptive to, and this Optimist Club, I don't want to tread on anything. I know they're a great contributor to the community and great people. I just, I think the amount of trees that they have available, and their sales, I'm sure some of the community residents are traveling elsewhere for their tree. That's a small, in the world of tree lots, that's kind of a small volume of trees.
Any other comments from the rest of the commission? Or
Just one minor concern that I have with the plan that's presented here is just visibility for traffic on the streets, and specifically with the trailer where it's positioned. In addition to the comment on the size, and I recognize we're outside of the right of way, etc. But it's just that that is a major turning corner. So I guess I'm saying is placement of the trailer, placement of the standing banner would be concerns that I think ought to be.
There are a large embankment of junipers in that corner there that are approximately 8 to 9 feet tall. And that parking lot falls off to the southeast. So from the standpoint of how much of a eyesore that is, if that trailer is located near that island in the lot,
I guess I'm not saying eyesore as much as just visibility for motorists to be able to see other turning vehicles on the other coming and going from the other street. And get more specific on that, but it's basically that clear visibility across that corner area that we have with it as a parking area instead.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, or is there a motion to be had? I don't know if we can redraw the site plan on the fly and address all those possible concerns. It's a little.
Yeah, I think this is a tough one. I think the biggest issue, if I pull up the aerial, just to kind of give you a look of the area, the biggest concern is that this drive aisle gets cut off, and there's really not much you can do about it, especially on a Saturday night or something. If Mr. B's is busy, there's cars that are going to be coming in. They're going to get halfway down here. If there's no parking, they're going to have to back out or try to maneuver a Y-turn with full parking. I'm not sure how we get around that issue with. I mean, if we can't, great, but I don't see it happening. I think we're supportive of the use. It's just not the best site for it. I think, especially when we have the northwest corner of Donjas Bay and Cedarburg is a vacant lot that would be perfect for this kind of use, I think. And there's nothing there except gravel. But, I don't know how else we can resolve all the issues on this site to make it work.
That's one concern I have, is just the traffic movement in there when it really does get busy Friday, Saturday night. It's going to be a little difficult for people to maneuver.
The owner, John, who had done work before, that was his number one concern too, both for customers of Sherwin-Williams and or the late night traffic for Mr. B's. Standing out there and chalking it out with him, I'm sure he would not want to upset his tenants there. And he felt like that was a significant room for delivery trucks and or patrons.
Well, I guess if there is some acknowledgement of that issue, I would hopefully we would get something in writing from Mr. B's that they acknowledge the use and are acceptable to it, because we have seen in the past where owners have not necessarily notified tenants of things that are occurring on site, and then the tenants call us and ask why we approve them. So if we can get some acknowledgement from Mr. B's that they're okay with this, and we can work on some kind of traffic flow through there, we could try to work it out. But I still think it's going to be very difficult.
Commissioner Parrish.
I was just curious, would you rather us vote on this tonight as you're proposing it, or would you rather us table it so you could give some more thought to it and come back with a different plan? Well, I assume you're running out of time here to figure this out.
I am running out of time. I would like to table it. I would like to redraft the footprint of this, if that's a viable consideration.
I'd be happy to advance.
So just to make the applicant aware that our next plan commission meeting is November 21st. Would that still be acceptable for your timeline? I know you're trying to get in on the 14th.
No, that wouldn't be work.
So staff has in the past approved at the staff level a temporary use similar to this without events and without blocking of traffic flow. And we do have some really good properties on Port Washington that are currently vacant, that are still in a high traffic area that could potentially be a great location for this, and that you wouldn't have to go back to plan commission for. So just throwing that out there as an option as well if you choose to not table it.
I think that's a good idea.
Well, that was my question. Are we in a position to approve this either A, with
consent from Mr. B's and some sort of traffic flow that staff agrees with? Or can we approve it tonight at a different location without having to come back to planning commission?
Well, typically with temporary uses, we have the authority at staff level to approve them. And if we don't approve them, that's when it comes in to the commission's purview.
That's how it got here, yeah.
So if there was another site that everything worked out okay, we could approve that without having to come back here. This is one of these issues where we just don't necessarily agree, so we feel like it's up to the planning commission to make that decision.
So from
That
the-
sounded like the beginning of a motion.
Yeah, it was. From the staff's perspective, if you can come up with some sort of traffic control that you're content with, and Mr. B's, and there's other businesses in there as well. I don't know how late the hair salon's open.
Yeah, there's the hair, then they
They're
do
open
pretty
till
good
8 or 9
business
as
too,
well.
so.
So if you had their consent and you come up with the traffic, would that change your opinion, or are you still strongly against it because of the trailer and?
I would say that staff would be more amenable to going and approving a different location where there isn't a current business located, like the old Pick and Save lot, or some of those empty office areas where they do have a tremendous amount of parking lot space. They could still go and hold this, and it wouldn't impact an existing business, and it wouldn't also,
Well, they don't need the applicant doesn't need a motion for that. He can come back with another location. I'm just trying to see if there's any way to salvage this location or not. And if that's not the will of the commission, then so be it. I would make a motion, but
I'd say make a motion. It's always appropriate to make a motion.
I'll make a motion to.
If we're leaving this back in staff's hands, they're
Yes.
the ones who brought to us in the first place, so they
I will
they
make
just
a
have to work
motion.
out with staff. If they can't, then another location is perfectly acceptable.
I'll make a motion to let staff work with the applicant to see if there's any way to overcome the traffic concern and the concern that potentially the tenants do not know about this. And if staff can come up with a comfortable way of approving, I would feel comfortable with them making that decision. If not, obviously the applicant can resubmit at any other location without having to come back in front of the commission.
Is there a second? Okay. Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? So that motion passes in the form eloquently stated by Commissioner Stoker.
Don't know about that.
So you can try and work out the site conditions with staff. If we can't come to an agreement, please propose it somewhere else. I mean, we'd love to have you. Don't want to say no to Christmas trees and Christmas fun, but this site's got some challenges the way it's currently proposed.
All right, well, thank you. all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Manuel and Catherine Lozado. The applicant is seeking a certified survey map approval to allow for a redivision of 3 lots for the property located at 1746 West Eleanor Place.
I'm up again, sir.
Okay, all right, busy night.
You can't get enough of me.
Kim goes on
Yes.
vacation, you get all the fun.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be fun. The applicant is seeking a redivision of 4 lots. All the lots are approximately 1/4 acre in size or non-conforming to the R4 district standards. The lots are located at and to the north and east of 1746 West Eleanor Place in the Riverdale Park subdivision. The redivision will create 2 lots, one that is currently vacant and proposed to be 1/3 of an acre, and another lot which contains an existing home that's proposed to be approximately 1/2 acre in size. The existing home is legal non-conforming due to several setback issues. The combination of lots will allow the home and lots to improve but not eliminate its non-conformity status. Cole is available if you have any questions for engineering, but overall, staff recommends approval of the CSM with the conditions provided in the packet. Mayor?
Thank you. Any questions from any of the commissioners?
I'd ask the applicant, are you in agreement with the staff's recommendations?
And I'm sorry, could you state your name for the record too, please? Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Manuel Rosado. And yeah, I think for the requirements for the recommendations of staff, they seem appropriate. The 100-year floodplain that could be reviewed, and I'm not sure that we've had any issues there, but that adding that to the CSM, I don't think that'd be an issue.
Okay.
I'm familiar with this area, and I support this, and I would move approval with staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That matter's approved. Congrats. Next, we have the Growth Design Group. Applicant is seeking a building and site plan amendment, landscape plan, specimen tree removal, approval, and fill permit for 15,000 in cubic yards and some change to allow for an expansion of the school and add an accessory structure to the property located at 10729 West Friedstadt Road. Is this Lori as well?
One last time.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you for putting up with me. As you mentioned, the applicant Trinity Lutheran School and Daycare has experienced increased enrollment over the past several years and anticipates this growth to continue. To accommodate the growth, the applicant is proposing a 63,000 square foot addition to the school and church, construction of standalone 5,500 square foot maintenance building, a parking lot expansion, and then they're also talking about removing a single family home that's adjacent to Granville Road to make way for the expansion. The proposed addition is shown to have a combination of stone and brick veneer. Sorry, we're just taking.
Can I clarify one thing on the stone? Sure. Robert Kaler, Growth Design Group. So there is a picture included there where it notes the stone as a match to the existing church entry. Upon further evaluation, that is currently a split face masonry, so that would be the recommendation to match that existing materiality.
Thank you for the clarification. So there will also be metal paneling and some, oh gosh, I can't even read my own writing. This is not good. But other features that will match the existing structure. The gym's exterior is shown with cream-colored precast insulated panels that match the color of the existing stone veneer on the church. Thank you. I believe that's on the next. Share. There we go. Thank you so much. Metal canopies will be constructed over entryways on the west side of the south elevation and on the east elevation of the addition. When you're looking at that south elevation, the grade of the site slopes to the west, creating the need to construct a retaining wall. The wall is proposed to be constructed of stone and a decorative metal railing. Ground and rooftop mechanicals are not shown, but are required by code to be appropriately screened from view. Signage is also shown on this plan, but are not part of the Plan Commission approval process and are required to comply with the sign code. One last item on the elevation is that the highest peak of the addition is nearly 42 feet tall, but it will be compatible with the height of the existing structure. The maintenance building is proposed to be clad with traditional vertical siding and includes 3 overhead doors, as shown here. The facade materials of the building do not match the principal structure. The color of the siding and doors, as well as the material of the doors, was not provided in the plan, so we are waiting for those details. Staff recommends as a condition of approval that a 3-foot wall wainscot accent of brick veneer be incorporated on all 4 sides of the structure, and the color of siding and overhead doors match the principal structure. The site plan shows the removal of the existing parking lot. I believe we'll have to scroll down for that. Sorry, things got a little out of order here. So yes, the site plan shows the removal of the existing parking lot and house along Granville Road to support the addition, parking lot expansion and creation of a pickup drop-off area, which is shown on that northeast side there. Parking calculations have been provided in the staff report. Staff calculated that the property would be required to have 130 parking stalls. The applicant has gone above and beyond and is proposing 197 stalls, 9 of which are ADA compliant. Staff has concerns about the turning radius of the pickup drop-off area drive located on the east side of the addition and its potential to create excessive queuing into the main east-west drive lane given its relatively short driveway distance. Talking about here, so as you can see, there will be queuing through here. It's just one of our concerns. The maintenance building will be oriented east-west with a new access driveway connecting the south portion of the lot. So that's just right down here on the south side. Through there. A lighting plan was included in your packet. The plan was missing several items, though, needed for staff to evaluate the plan. But staff is confident that we will be able to work through these issues with the applicant in the following days. I have to say that this group has been fantastic to work with so far. A landscape plan was also included in your packet and reviewed by the city's landscape architect consultant. Based on his comments, staff recommends that the listed plants schedule quantities need to be updated to match what is shown on the plan, and that the plan meet the street tree requirements. Mike and Cole are also available to speak on the specimen tree removal aspect and the fill permit. But overall, staff recommends approval with the conditions provided in your packet. Any questions?
Thank you. So it sounds like a couple of loose ends here or there, but confident you can work through that at the staff level. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Let me just say, I think it's awesome that you're able to and willing to expand in Mequon. This is a pretty good looking project, all things considered. So thank you and congratulations on getting this far. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, the only question that I have is with regards to the parental drop-off pickup area, and I guess most importantly, like how many parents are anticipated to be using the facility as you've got it proposed there with a little parking area. I bring this up only that this is a very significant recurring problem at schools and similar functions just like this at communities all over the place, that parental drop-off has become more and more significant, and resulting traffic problems and hazards on, in this case, what would be, I guess, Freistadt Road or Greenville Road, I mean.
Sure, that's.
Hi, Sam Seefeld. I'm the principal at Trinity. We have the world's most efficient car line, and we're very proud of it. Despite some 8th graders' best efforts, we still think our design is going to be the one that we submit as the lead design. Overall, right now, as the school dismisses around 3 o'clock, we have approximately 175 to 200 picking up at any point in time, and the entire process takes about 10 minutes, sometimes less. With the added stalls, as noted by staff, significant increase in space above and beyond what we actually anticipate needing to route cars appropriately so that there isn't a backup issue. Was there a more specific question about the number?
I guess maybe very specifically, concern that I come up with is how would you be handling parents that are coming into that 2 o'clock hour that you talk about? I would think a lot of them might be coming up from Granville Road, and with cars, I'm going to just say literally backed up internally, causing backups and hazard along Granville Road.
Yeah, so we actually don't use Granville Road as a pickup line in the afternoon. It is a drop-off line in the morning. The western edge of the property here, as it sits right now, traffic enters per quite a bit of orientation and diagram sharing, I'd say. We actually ask parents, and we have our students form 4 lines of cars, and that becomes a one-way in the afternoon. So we are actually able to stack up quite a few cars on the western edge of the property. Cars are dismissed 6 at a time to awaiting students, and it's a constantly rotating line. So we've got 6 up. Well, 6 are being loaded into cars. The next 6 are being called by radio. All the cars have a tag on it. So there's actually a staff member down here calling off the next 6 students, and they are placed in more or less an on-deck circle so that there's a constant flow of traffic, and it really never does get backed up onto the road.
So parents aren't using.
No, that's a bus. That is a bus.
Clearly understood.
Yeah, that's a bus pickup line at the end of the day. So as it sits currently, it's kind of hard to describe, but buses are picking up from Granville Road, and there's only 4. We have a city bus from Milwaukee, 2 from Germantown, 1 from Mequon, and then the automobile traffic is routed via Church Place.
And that's really what so it's Church Place that's very clear.
Church Place is almost entirely clear. Even as it sits now, there's plenty of space, but there's definitely not traffic on Freistadt or Granville Road. And like I said, the only traffic entering via Granville Road would be the school buses.
Thank you for the description. I think that did a lot to clear up what people were envisioning. Commissioner Bach.
Just a question on that rendering with the Trinity Trojan logo on. What is that off-white kind of building or part there?
I believe you're referring to the gymnasium potentially.
Yeah, is that what the outside is going to look like?
So right there in that bottom perspective with the Trinity logo on there. That you're talking about.
The white right there.
Yeah, that is a gymnasium. That is a precast panel in a cream color with a relatively smooth texture. And those are reveal lines in the panel to provide some visual interest on the panel itself.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was any way to make that more kind of blend in with the other buildings, if there's anything else besides that. But I get it, it's a gymnasium and that's complicated, but it just looks very different from the other parts of the campus. So that was my only quick comment.
Any other? Got one here. Commissioner Parrish.
Mostly just positive congratulations on the growth of Trinity School, and this is a really impressive Trinity Lutheran. Sorry, and this is a really impressive expansion to nearly double in size. Mequon really supportive and excited about this. We're already known as a place of education, so to hear that you're already doing so successful is really promising. I assume this comes with it more jobs that you're bringing to the community. To your facilities doubling in size, I would assume there's more jobs, which is another positive aspect that we're excited about. Just 2 technical questions. I was curious if the applicants, there's an extensive list of conditions of approval, just making sure you're okay with all those. Not to steal Mr. Stoker's question. And then this is a very large facility. There's no water and sewer there, is there? So you have some kind of on-site system for this?
Yeah, excuse me. Matt Bailey with Trio Engineering. Currently, there's an on-site well that's located on the north side of the building. Part of the design process will be to determine the capacity and make sure it meets the needs, and if necessary, provide a new additional well.
It'll be sprinklered.
Sprinklered, and that system will also be designed with the holding tank that would be designed to feed the new building addition.
Yeah, the new building addition would be separated with a firewall from the existing, and the new addition will be sprinklered.
Okay. And all the conditions of approval were acceptable?
I have no objection.
Fantastic. Is there a motion or any further comment?
I move to approve the plan with staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, and
thank you.
Wish you the best of luck in the construction process. Next, we have Gerald Nell. The applicant is seeking consultation to allow for a car wash to be added to an existing gas station for the property located at 11155 North Wauwatosa Road. This
one's me.
Jack is up.
Yes.
Assistant Director Zader.
Welcome to the main event.
So they're requesting a consultation. This is the gas station on the corner of Wauwatosa and Mequon Road. This is a B1 zone property. Gas stations are not permitted in the B1 anymore, which makes this property a non-conforming use. There is a code section that allows for expansion of a non-conforming use under what's called an exempted use. It's similar to a conditional use grant, and we've issued one recently. The most recent one, I think, was for Quality Auto Body on Cedarburg Road, which was a non-conforming use for auto body, and they did some expansion and changes to that site. So this request is for a car wash. I have it up on the screen, showing the location in the back. It's a one-bay car wash, relatively small. This is a very tight site. It's, as you can see, I'll show you the site plan. It allows for the queuing of about 5 vehicles to get into the bay, and there's a pretty much of a sharp turn to get through to get out. There's a dumpster enclosure back here. And they're showing some parking that's located back here being relocated to this front section up here as well. Based on our code requirements, they would be required to have about 15 stalls for the C-store and the pump islands, and they get to use the pump islands as part of that parking. We decided to go the consultation route just to see what the input from the commission is before they went through formal plans, but if there is positive recommendation coming out of planning commission to go forward, we have a whole list of things that need to be done. There's a lot of improvements we're looking at seeing be done here, including landscaping, additional lighting, some better striping, relocation of the parking in the front to this location versus where it's shown here. This is a gas station that's been here for a while. I don't see the use changing. We have, as you recall, the vet was recently approved right next door. To the south, there's a building that was recently built, so we don't see this as a potential redevelopment site to incorporate other parcels, so I think it's going to remain a gas station. So I guess the question for the commission is, do we want to see it more intense use there, having the car wash with improvements, or to keep it the way it is and remain as status quo? So we're just looking for feedback at this time, and if you show support for the car wash, they'll eventually come back for an accepted use approval and a building and site plan approval. Thank you.
All right. How do people feel about proposed addition of the car wash? I think it happens to fit the use. I agree it's probably never going to not be a gas station, probably in my lifetime. It allows them to make a little bit more money and attract some more customers. It's probably not a bad thing. I'd rather see them be successful than fail.
I would agree. The only problem with what is that it's out of your control is that it's kind of a tricky corner there. It's hard. I would say, especially if you're going north, if you come to the gas station, then want to go north on 76th Street, or to get out. Because if you get out there on Mequon Road, you got to quickly get over there to that left lane to make a turn, and that's the tricky part. But I'm not sure the car wash is going to change that at all. So I agree with the mayor.
It looks like they'd be more likely to exit on Mequon Road.
Yeah. It's just then you gotta, if you're gonna turn left, you gotta get over there really quickly. But I think the car.
Yeah, there's challenges with any location on a busy road. Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, I would support what you're doing, but I guess I'm hearing that there's still some plan development going on. What I'd like to just real concern is possible blocking of the driveway. It's that Saturday after the storm is the time when the queuing at any car wash is a problem. So doesn't happen that often. But I'm wondering if there's any, I guess, fundamental question is, could the queuing be reversed so that it's coming in along your longer side of the west? I mean, I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just throwing that out as an idea, such that the queuing would not be across the driveway and prevent a hazard to traffic coming into your site, and then rear ends, etc., along Wauwatosa Road.
Cars at the pumps, if the queuing extends beyond the north face of the building, it begins to interfere with the cars pulling out, getting into and leaving the pumps.
And I guess I'm coming from the concern of the traffic on the highway on our public street coming in and out of the property.
If I see 5 cars deep at the car wash, I keep driving.
Right, and again, I'm recognizing that this isn't throughout the year like this, but it's at any car wash, any of the ones in Mequon or other cities. When you have a queue of vehicles, it becomes a significant problem. and concern.
We can certainly take a look at it and try and flip it around and see if that works better.
Or if there's some way of marking and signing, which I'm not saying that's a solution, but I think some more thought needs to be put into that.
And this is just a consultation to
Yeah.
kind of take our temperature. I mean, the last thing they want to do is invest tens of thousands of dollars in plans and then come here and it totally flops. So this is actually a better way to do some of these things. If it just peel us out a little bit and then get a
And
little.
that's the way I want to
preliminary
bring it
feedback.
up. It's a significant concern.
Commissioner Parrish.
Yeah, we just approved another car wash on the east side of town, Jilly's Car Wash, and much more residences nearby there. But as the alderman for that, I heard from a lot of the residences, and the decibel noise became a big issue. In that case, it ended up being so close to the road that the road was actually, I think, louder than the car wash. And then here I'm looking at it, it's so deep on the site, you don't have that. I don't know. My suggestion would be that maybe you do a decibel reading. I think staff even has that capability to know if what is being suggested is even possible here, or if your machinery is going to exceed that threshold, because that is what we do at other car washes. So I don't know that it would be approved differently here. So just a suggestion to look into the noise relative to the rear lot line.
Thank you. All the equipment would be located within the building too, not that there would be a dryer, standalone dryer outside, which some do, we would not be doing.
And I would say the location of the car wash is somewhat being helped by the neighboring commercial building. I have it up on the screen. Basically, it would be going in this location here. So you have this commercial building here that's 2 stories basically in height. That would probably block a lot of the noise. The closest residential you have is these side-by-sides here and down here. Well, those are about 220 feet away from the actual edge of the building.
Pretty far.
So I think the noise could be dealt with pretty well, and I think that building will also help shield those residences from the noise. And I'm assuming, we could take some readings on Mequon Road and Wauwatosa Road, but I'm sure the decibel readings there are probably going to be in that low 60s to mid 60s range, just like on Fort Washington Road.
And typically with this type of car wash, you don't have a lot of queue in the queue lane anyway. I mean, at least the ones that I've noticed around Mequon and the other, gas stations, there's not like there's 20 cars waiting to go through. So
No, this is going to be a touchless car wash, so
it's usually a couple, 2 or 3.
drive in, drive out, drive in, drive out.
Yeah. So I don't.
What about drying lanes? You're doing any drying vacuums and stuff
There
like
is
that?
one existing, I think, vac already, what they're showing, which is currently located up in this area right here. And that already exists. There's a vacuum there. And I assume that would remain as the only one.
Any other comments or feedback? Did you get what you needed? Okay. Fantastic. Well, maybe we'll see you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Lakeside Development of Mequon. Applicant is seeking a development agreement amendment regarding the installation of sidewalks for the property located immediately east of 11050 Northweston Drive, known as the Residence at Foxtown. Jack have this one as well?
I'll let Cole handle this one.
We're switching it up.
Cool,
I'm giving
okay.
this one. So this one is Lakeside Development. Applicant is seeking DA Development Agreement Amendment, mostly regarding the installation of the sidewalks at the residence at Foxtown. The language suggested by the applicant was mostly eliminating the requirement currently in the DA that requires a block basis installation of the sidewalk, as well as eliminating the deadline for the sidewalk to be installed, eliminating the 24 months after final plat approval. So the current language in the DA, like I mentioned, requires that the portions of the sidewalk be installed on a block-wide basis rather than piece by piece. this language, this request was actually made for the way that the applicant is proposing back in January and March of 2021. And that time, staff and commission, the commission agreed to allow sidewalk installation after final plat, which is normally not the way we do it, but with the uniqueness of how close these are together and how they're being installed, eventually staff and commission allowed sidewalk to be installed after final plat if installed on that per block basis. And just to go into the basis of the per block sidewalk installation was just to avoid having a piece by piece installation and adding a bunch of piecewise joints, so that freeze thaw is going to cause some differential settlement and possible trip hazards in the future. And then also just differently aged concrete is going to look different in the long run. Different curing conditions, different look to it. So those are our main concerns, and might give it a piecemeal kind of look at the end. And currently the sidewalk has been being installed in sections, which has been actually a violation of the development agreement. And on top of that, we had some water utility staff come to us this week, or last week actually, and they mentioned that a lot of the curb stop water shutoffs for each of these buildings is potentially having damage during construction. And we're still figuring out if all of them need to be replaced or if only some need to be replaced. But the bad part is that since some of that sidewalk is already installed, that might actually have impacts on the sidewalk that's been poured already. So I guess after all that, we do recommend denial of the current language that they're requesting.
And I'll just follow up with to kind of give you a little context. I'm sure not are familiar with actually what's going on out there. So you have 3 separate blocks. So this is the most northerly block. This is 1 through 9. The first 3 sidewalks were poured together when these 3 were completed, and then 4, 5, and 6 sidewalks were poured together, and then the rest of them were poured together. On this section, they actually poured this at the beginning when the curbing and streets went in, but when building 10, which is right here, was built, they ripped out just the sections in front of 10 and re-poured that because of damage that was done during construction. And then down here you have 19 to 23. This one, they poured the sidewalk for 23, which is here, but it stopped at the end of 23, and this is left kind of open right now. So I have some pictures of that just to kind of show you what that looks like. So right here, this is basically the first grouping. This is 1 through 9. And as you can see from the pictures, you can see the different coloration of the different pours. This is the first pour. And then you can see it goes to another gray, and then there's the third pour down this way. And then this is 10 through 18. As you can see, 10 was re-poured, and then the rest of them remained as what was done originally. And then this shows you the one in front of 23, which it stops, and then there's nothing in front of 19 through 22. So these were all done, again, these were done not in compliance with the current development agreement. So the commission has to, I think, weigh 2 options. One, are we going to amend the development agreement to allow for this? And if we're not, then what we're going to do with these existing non-compliant pours. So I think those are the 2 issues that are in front of you tonight.
Jack, what did you just say about the last part? If it's going to be denied, what are you suggesting?
Well, if they deny your request, then you're not in compliance with your development agreement. So then we have to talk about how do we resolve that issue. And the only way to really resolve it to be compliant would be to remove all the sidewalks that are poured out there and re-pour them as continuous pours.
That's thousands of square feet of sidewalk.
I understand that. I'm just laying out the facts for the commission to understand.
Can I have the floor?
Go ahead, Doug.
Well, thank you.
Why don't you speak, Mr. Zabjek?
Okay. The first thing I want to
Ask
say
some
is
questions, I'm sure.
the development agreement is flawed. the city has never, staff has never contended with such a project where we're dealing with lots that are 30-some feet wide and the sidewalks are right up against the houses. As Jack pointed out initially, Jack, would you please put that plat up again? Initially, when we put the curb in, we did install, you can see the center row of houses. We installed the entire sidewalk along that row before we started building. And when we started building, we started from the west, the first row from the west to the east. We built 1, 2, 3, right down that line. And Jack is right. When we started building on lot number 10, which is the middle row to the east, we damaged the sidewalk. And it wasn't just in front of 10. It was about 100 feet, and I have a picture of that. That was literally cracked. So we had to tear that out and replace that. And, the issue, Jack is saying heaving and so forth, we do a lot of building in the North Shore, Whitefish Bay, Shorewood, and so forth, and we do a lot of infill. And invariably, we break the sidewalk, and we have to replace it. And the municipality doesn't require us to replace the entire, block with new concrete. I mean, that's the nature of building. And so Jack and I have been going around this for 2 years. And so, the solution is put the sidewalks in, they get broken, we're going to have to replace it. His other option is, well, Tom, like as an example, the first row, why don't you wait until you have the entire row completed, all right? And right now, to this date, we're working on constructing 7, 8, and 9. There's people living in 1, 2, 4, and 5. Jack suggests that we just have a gravel walkway until 9 is finished, then pour the entire walk. Well, I mean, people are living in $650,000 houses. They don't want to be walking on gravel for over a year. The person living in lot 3, I mean, next month she'll be in there for 12 months. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. My point is, I mean, this is very unusual. I mean, typically a subdivision has a 50-foot setback. And here we talk, well, you can see, in some cases we have the curb stop in the sidewalk. In some cases they're in the stoop. I mean, it just is a totally different animal here. The other thing with respect to the curb stops, I've been working with Jim Floyd, and I mean, that guy's worth his weight in gold. And we've had an issue there. And quite honestly, we don't know what the issue is. We had to turn off the water on lot 6, lot 10, and 23 in order to install an irrigation meter. And the way the irrigation system works in lot 6, which is the middle of the upper row, the irrigation goes all the way around to the south, and then, I'm sorry, to the north, and then loops around and goes all the way around the subdivision. Then lot number 10, which is in the middle row on the east, there's a system that goes to the west, and the same is true with the southern row of 5. And what happened was when we turned the water off to install the, there's a special meter for the irrigation system. For some reason, when they try to turn it back on, it didn't work. And I've worked with Jim Voigt on this and his folks. They made a concerted effort. And the bottom line is, we don't know what the problem is. And I have a theory that the key on the valve is being broke because of the tool that's used, the amount of torque that is produced when you're putting a wrench down 5 feet. But that's a different issue. So I don't think Jack is clear with respect to the problem with the the curb stops. But, I mean, the bottom line, it's really not feasible to do it the way the amendment, or not the amendment, the development agreement is written, other than we do it piecemeal, and when it's all done, tear out all the sidewalks and replace them all, which in my judgment is not the most effective use of resources.
Just to clarify a few things, this is not my recommendation. This is what the development agreement requires be done. Second, we did speak to Cole, and I spoke with Jim Voigt today at length. He feels that the valves here are just faulty. We haven't had this issue in any of our subdivisions, so he thinks the type of valve that's being used here is faulty. And it's not really relevant to this case, except the fact that to replace those valves, you might end up having to rip out some sidewalk again. So you might have additional patching upon patching, and we don't know the extent of that at this time.
There's no question that the sidewalks, at least two of them, Lot 23 and Lot 10, the sidewalks definitely have to be torn out because the valves are not functional.
Do we think that problem with the valves extends to other properties? I'm assuming they're all the same
Yes,
type
I
of
think
valve,
they're
probably
gonna-
all bought in the same batch.
They're going to verify, but I think they made the comment that they will not accept this type of valve anywhere in Mequon going forward, and we're trying to figure out the extent of how bad these are.
Was anyone on the commission here when this was approved the first time? I wasn't. Commissioner Stoker was.
I don't recall a conversation specifically about that being this topic. I mean, it was part of the development agreement that we didn't scrutinize at that level.
Okay.
So I don't recall a conversation about sidewalks. It is an unfortunate situation. We deal with this as builders all the time. Some subdivisions, they make you put the sidewalks in. We are going to crack those sidewalks and ruin them. Typically, it's on a 100-foot or 150-foot wide lot, and we're only ruining 2 sections. We actually put money into our contracts to replace the sidewalk that we are going to damage, and we put concrete trucks over it and all those things. So when you've got a 2-section repair out of 150 feet, it doesn't look as bad as having 3 or 4 or 5 repairs in a short distance like this. The other option, waiting until the end, is probably not practical either if you have people residing there. So you're kind of in a catch-22 here. I'll be the first to admit these sidewalks don't look good, from the general aesthetic of the community. And I did not go out there and drive and look at that, but just from looking at the pictures, especially if you're going to be doing valve repairs, you might be in a situation where you might end up having to replace those sidewalks all, and I hate to see that done as well, but I think the aesthetic is going to be, you're going to struggle because you've got, just in the center section, you've got 3 different colored pours and they're drastically different looking. A lot of people will say over time that they all blend together and it starts to look, but that can take 10 years before it really grays and they look exactly the same. So I don't know what to, I'm struggling here. I understand that you did not follow the developer's agreement. From a builder's perspective, I think it's a bad position to have to put the sidewalk in and then build over it because you're going to ruin those sidewalks. So I don't know that there's a good answer here. And again, I don't know. I don't have an answer. I think you're going to find that, especially if you end up with 3 or 4 or 5 more of these curb stops where you're ripping out a section or two, you're going to have such a mishmash of concrete that I think you're going to, as the developer, say that we don't like the way it looks, or your residents are going to say, can we replace these? And I know there's a big cost in doing that, but I certainly wouldn't do that until you get all the curb stops replaced or fixed or figured out what's going on there. And then you still have, I don't know, how many units do you have left to build?
We have 12 built right now.
So 12.
There's 23 altogether.
So the reality is, if he goes and puts the sidewalks in, and pours it all at once, he's going to be repairing those sidewalks because they're going to be ruined.
Well, I think we have 3 different issues on the 3 different blocks. And he doesn't have to put them in, he can wait. But I think the easiest block, at least in my opinion, is this middle one. This was already installed. So I think our opinion is leave it as is until all these houses are built, And then if it's damaged, rip the whole thing out, redo it. And that's what I told him when lot 10, he recently replaced. I said, why not just wait until you build all the rest of these and then replace them all at once if they're all going to get damaged. Now, he's going to have to replace lot 10 again anyway because of that curb stop issue. But to me, that's an easy one, because if they are going to get damaged, then we wait till all these are built, and then we rip it all out and pour them all at the same time. This block here is also, I think, relatively straightforward. He poured to 23. There's only another 4 lots. I would wait and put crushed gravel down and tamp it down as much as possible to, keep it in place until those houses are at a point where you could pour that sidewalk, and then rip out 23, which has already got the valve issue, and pour these all at once as well. The difficulty is the one that we just talked about, 1 through 9. I mean, you saw the different color pours. The only solution to that is either keep it the way it is and live with it, or rip it all out and remove it all. And again, if there are valve issues there, that could even look more disjointed than it does now. But again, that block is just more, it's pretty much everything is, not everything's complete. Number 9 and 8 are still being worked on, but the heavy work, I think, is done there. So if that gets ripped out and replaced, you could fence it off to protect it from any future construction damage as those get finished up. So those are the 3 different blocks, and they're all a little bit different in terms of, I think, how they could be handled.
So some of the sidewalks have survived the heaviest part of the construction and some have not? Sounds like perhaps.
Well, again, 10 through
7 and 8 have?
10 through 18 was poured originally, and I think part of that reason was because there was only a curb there, and the sidewalk was right up to the curb, so it kind of helped support the curb. But when Mr. Zabchik built lot 10, this is the one right here. So this whole stretch was actually all poured at once at the beginning. So you can see right here, this is where he recently replaced the section that was damaged. My recommendation at the time was to leave this, and because none of these rest of these houses have been built, you still have, another 7 houses here to be built. So I would have waited and left all this in until those were all built, and if they all got damaged, then you can obviously replace them all at one time. Now, he replaced this section prior to occupancy on this unit, but then now with the valve issue, it sounds like half that's going to have to come out again anyway.
If I could just comment, the picture that Jack's showing across the street on the first pour of 1, 2, and 3, it is a little bit darker because the contractor put a sealer on there, and that will lighten up. But if you go to the east of that row where there's 2 other pours, if you go look at the site, it's really hard to see where the second pour, or I should say the third pour, is located. So it's not an aesthetic thing. And I mean, none of the residents have complained about, the color of the concrete. As I said, you go to Whitefish Bay or Shorewood, in front of each house, it's a different color. I mean, it's.
But that's a true infill development where there are all existing houses. This is a new development to begin with, and I think Kim would, if she were here, she would remind everybody that this is a $50 million development that the city has been a partner in, and everything we've done here, we've tried to do at the highest level. So we wouldn't want to sacrifice anything with regard to the aesthetic of this as well.
If I can comment for a second, I've been a transactional real estate lawyer for 37 plus years. I've been involved in drafting countless developers agreements. And the one thing I know for certain is every time I think I've figured everything out, I find out that I haven't. Unique developments have unique problems, and this one is unique in the city, and it's pretty much unique anywhere around here. And I think that while the intentions were good, the practical effects of having somebody move into their house and wait a year or more to have their sidewalk in front of their house poured is simply unacceptable. And forcing the developer to pour the entire block with the expectation and understanding that the construction is going to significantly damage that, causing the developer to incur a not insignificant expense to replace the whole thing, is an unreasonable imposition. I don't have the answer. I think that the development agreement was entered into with nothing but great intentions. But I can't tell you the number of times that I've done this where we thought we got everything, we just plain didn't. And that's the situation you have here. And I don't think it's reasonable to force residents to live without a sidewalk for an extended period of time. I also don't think it's reasonable for the developer to be required to have a single pour more than once, because that's what's going to happen. If he pours it once, we're going to have damage. We're going to have to replace a section. The city's going to be unhappy because the pours don't match. I don't have a solution to this one, but I don't think that there is a proposal that's been made that treats the developer reasonably while taking into account the reasonable expectations of any homeowner. I wouldn't live for 5 minutes with a gravel approach to my house. I don't think these.
Well, I guess I'll disagree with you a little bit on that. There are some communities and some homes that people wait a year to pour their driveway or to pour their front stoops or sidewalks because of settling issues. And there are some communities that allow you to get final plat with a gravel road. So they all survive. They adjust and accommodate. It's a short period of time. But I just want to also make it clear, this was requested twice previously, and it was denied both times by the Planning Commission. So we vetted this out 3 separate occasions. And ultimately, we decided this was the way we wanted to go forward. And so to say we didn't actually think about these things, we did. We understand there's a tough situation, but we felt the issue of not having the sidewalk in with a gravel pad for temporary use was more appropriate than allowing the patching of the sidewalk like they're showing on the screen. And the commission at the time, both times, agreed with that. So,
Jack, with respect, the fact that you went over it multiple times doesn't mean you got it right. I think you guys got it right.
I'm not sure there's a right and wrong to this.
Well, I think that it's a catch-22. You're either imposing on the owners to accept a substandard product, which to me is a gravel approach to a $650,000 house. If it's an individual resident and they decide that they're happy waiting until settling to install their driveway or their walkways, that's their individual choice. But the city is imposing and making that decision for those homeowners. I don't think it's reasonable.
I think the unfortunate situation with the valves throws another monkey wrench in this. Yeah. You could end up having to rip up everything that's there now, or significant portions of it. If the lots are only 30 feet wide and you got to rip out a couple squares to get at it, what are they, 4 or 6 feet a pop? You're almost ripping out half the sidewalk.
There's no question. This is, as I said, unique developments cause unique problems. And this one, with all the best intentions, I'm not sure was handled, in my opinion, correctly. And as I said, I don't know the answer. But I think any way we go, we're either imposing on tax-paying residents to accept something less, whether temporarily or ultimately by having multicolored sidewalks, or we're imposing on the developer to incur a significant unanticipated expense that doesn't make it attractive for developers to come to the city if they see this track record and the additional expense that the city imposes. It's what I do every day, and when we make decisions where we're going to develop mostly multifamily projects, we look at what our experience was with the municipality in making that decision. Just finishing up a $50 million project in a municipality, they'd like us to come back and do another one based on the way they treated us? The answer is no. So I think that the picture, I think that there are multiple considerations. I can't answer what the right approach is, but I don't think we think that despite best intentions, they got it right this time.
Is there no other remedy for addressing the frost heaving? I don't know, can you join sections of concrete together with rebar?
We did kind of look into that a little bit. I haven't seen that in my experience. It's just too thin of a piece of concrete for that. I mean, if there was any tension on it at all, like that, the little spot on the edge would just pop up. So, and it's not reinforced normally.
Like a
Commissioner
comment
Parrish.
that it's 5 inches thick.
Right.
I mean, it's not thin. I mean, that's a lot of concrete. But, you know, the other thing, what are we going to do if we redo the whole thing? Apart from expense, in my judgment, it's a waste of resources. But then it cracks. You know, we already have cracks. And there's an alley between, it would be the middle row and the southern row. And where the apron is there, where there's a sidewalk, both sidewalks are cracked already. And it's because trucks are turning into the alley and they miss the road. So in that scenario, we have to replace that portion, we have to replace the whole thing again?
I think if you ended up pouring a block and there's damage, to ask you to replace the whole block is admittedly ridiculous. But I guess if you pour a block and you have damage, you should be allowed to replace the damage only where it's occurring. Because I don't know, what's the block? It looks like it's 250 feet long. I don't know, it's 30 times 9, so it's 270 feet long. Plus a little bit on each end. It's darn near a football field. You can't damage a couple squares, you can't pull out the whole football field. But I guess you either have to put it in before and be able to fix damage or as it occurs, or putting it in after, like Commissioner Goldberger said, is a little bit difficult for the people who are, if you're the first one on the block and you gotta wait till the 9th house sells, that could be a long time. I mean, I would recommend, if you can put it in ahead of time, we can't, that complies with the DA, we just have to allow you to repair damage. Maybe you can't prevent damage, I don't know, I don't build houses for a living.
There's 2 types of concrete. There's cracked concrete and there's concrete that's gonna crack. Well, that's a fact.
True, yeah.
And I tell my customers that. It is a fact that that's just what's gonna happen. You throw in frost heaving and construction equipment, you know, I would say 1 in 5 times we get away with building over a sidewalk where we don't damage the sidewalk. And it's fate. We put stone over it, we put 2 loads of stone over it, but it's a crapshoot. If it's in March and frost is coming out of the ground, you gotta drive just a delivery truck with cabinets over that sidewalk, it's gonna crack.
How soon are we gonna know the extent of the valve issue and the impact on the sidewalk? When are we gonna get that information?
I think the water utility was planning on going out and checking each one individually. I don't think they've done that yet. As we know, I think it's 3 or 4 that for sure need replacement. But I'm not sure when they would have that. I wouldn't expect it to take that long, but it was literally like last week that this issue came up, which is kind of ill-timed for this conversation too.
So more than 10% of them are broken already. And we've barely begun to use them.
What's the developer's obligation in terms of replacing defective water valves? Is there a warranty by the developer? How does that work?
We are past preliminary plat, obviously. I am not positive on the warranty as of right now.
What happened last Friday, Friday afternoon, when I went into the subdivision on lot 21, which is the southern row, the water utility, they had a hydro digger, you know, they put water and suck it out. And I asked what they were doing, and they said they were testing the valves. And apparently, they were able to open that valve on 21. And I said, well, what's the problem? And they said, we can't close it. And I said, well, if it opened, why can't you close it? And they said, we don't know. Then Jim Voigt came and said, Tom, we've never experienced this before. It's nothing to do, it didn't appear that it was damaged. Obviously, if they were able to open it, they should be able to close it, but they couldn't close it. And so Jim, they dug down and he said, Tom, there's the way the valve is, there's a little square key on the top, and then this tool goes down, it looks like that, it goes on the key, and it's supposed to turn it. And he said, it's broken. And I said, Jim, how could it be broken? Because obviously you opened it. He said, I have no idea. And so what they had to do was crimp the pipe in order to turn the water off. And so there's an issue. And I go back to what I said before when I looked at this, because we've had 4 valves that were broken. And I sent an email to Jim. I didn't copy Jim Voigt. I didn't copy anybody else. But, if you look at torque, torque is force times the distance. And if you take a lug wrench and you put 30 pounds of torque on it, and it's a foot long, if you take a wrench that's 2 feet long, you have 60 pounds of torque. Well, you have a wrench that's going down there at least 5 feet. And I mean, these are big guys. And what I think is happening, is my theory, is this valve is inside a bell housing. And I think that tool that goes down, which is about like this, gets in between that key that is supposed to turn and the bell housing. And when they turn that, it breaks that little key. I mean, that's my theory.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Because I don't think this is going to get resolved this evening. I'd like to suggest that table this, allow the work on determining why the valves are going to have to be done, because that's going to dictate to some extent how much sidewalk repair is going to be made. And what concerns me is the fact that you're going down 5 feet with this wrench should be within the design parameters. An expectation that that's how much torque you're going to be applying to move this. I don't know if the valve design is flawed in the first instance, way beyond my understanding, but rather than try to solve this problem with an imperfect solution because we don't have all the facts, I just assume you table it, find out what's going wrong with the water valves, because that may tell you how much of the sidewalks are going to have to be replaced as a practical matter. Maybe that helps solve part of the problem. But getting back to the solution, I think if the developer's agreement stays as it is with a single block pour, the only way to do it is to accept that you're going to have to do it at the beginning of the project with the expectation that one or more sections are going to have to be replaced, but without the city requiring that if you have to replace 3 sections in 3 different spots, you don't have to replace.
Well, we only have, quite honestly, the southern row, we have it poured, lot 23, which is the easterly lot on the southern row. So there's 4 more lots that we would have to pour.
How recent is that pour?
That was poured 6 months ago.
So I am concerned that the developer's agreement wasn't followed, whether in hindsight we think it's flawed or not. I think that the developer's agreement should have been followed. So I have a little less sympathy for your plight because you didn't do what the developer's agreement required you to do. And I haven't read it, so I can't tell you whether there are ways that it could be interpreted differently. But I think for tonight, we're best served by tabling this, finding out what's wrong with the valves, and then revisiting how we can approach it.
Before anyone seconds that and makes it non-debatable, is it feasible to have answers on the valves in a month?
I would think so. I could check.
And I'm assuming we build no more new sidewalks in the next month.
Right. I would think we would know that.
No more.
No more sidewalks,
Just-
Tom. You have a plan?
Wait a month, figure out what's going on with the valves, because
No. Commissioner, we did initially for that one road, as Jack pointed out, and as we started construction across the street, we said there's no way that the sidewalks are gonna survive the construction process, which is evidenced when we built 10, we had to replace. I mean, it's not a question, it just is not feasible to put the sidewalks in and expect them to survive a construction process. And as you pointed out, Commissioner, it's not feasible to have people walking gravel for a year. So it's a unique project, and
it's physically feasible. I don't know that buyers of the units are expecting that. That's
I agree, it's feasible, but it's not desirable.
Is there
Is that a motion to table?
I think it was.
I'll second it.
Oh, well, there it became non-debatable. So
where does it leave me?
we'll find out. Well, I will not debate it. I will clarify what I think I heard the motion was. The motion is to table it while staff, I presume led by city water, will assess the condition of the other valves and the likelihood that they'll sustain similar damage to the first 4 that have sustained damage. And we'll report back in a month and talk about it again, perhaps. Because if we think there's a high likelihood of more valves failing and you're going to be faced with ripping up most of them anyway, we might be arguing about nothing. All with sidewalks that are there might have to come out in huge chunks anyway. Does that make any sense?
Well, what does this have to do with respect to my future development, getting occupancy permits, additional building permits? I don't know.
I think we can wait. The reason I requested Mr. Zapchek apply for the amendment because he was in non-compliance with his agreement, and so we were gonna hold up additional permits until he at least tried to come into compliance. Now that he's made the attempt, as long as we can continue to work on this, I think it's fine. We won't hold up any building permits at this point, and there's no really risk of any other further sidewalk being installed. So I don't think a month is gonna be a big issue. We won't hold up anything at this point.
Jack, I appreciate your flexibility. I think that lets Tom continue his development. You guys will hopefully get the sidewalk product that you want, but I think we need more information before we can reasonably consider the request for the amendment.
Oh, well, I don't know that we can. Yeah, we can't.
I'm not debating anything.
I'm not a master of the rules here, but I think we've already
We got a motion.
we got a motion and a second, and the motion to table is non-debatable.
I'm not debating anything. I just a comment after the fact.
Well, you could rescind the motion in the second and let him speak, and then
I agree with the motion. I want to rescind it. So fine. You don't want to hear my comments?
Well, let's follow the process. Would the motioner and the seconder like to temporarily rescind their motion?
I'll rescind the motion.
Okay.
I'm sorry you had to do that.
Well, I just don't want to ignore Robert's rules because it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, my one suggestion for staff, and since I won't be at the next planning commission meeting, presumably, is I do not feel that rows 1 through 9 should ultimately be ripped out and replaced in whole, despite the sidewalk discoloration. I think that's a market base. The residents will weigh in on that. Because that probably will require some kind of development agreement amendment if you go that route, presumably to allow it to remain.
You will have to amend
as it is. So I wanted to throw that out there since I won't be at the next meeting. That I think it would be somewhat unreasonable to take
You're
out.
welcome to come to the next meeting, unless you can't.
I'm here as an alternate, so Alderman
You can always
Strelchek
come
was
and
not
talk.
feeling well tonight.
You just
so
won't get the vote.
yeah, so that's all. I mean, I just wanted. I think we don't need to go to the extremes here I think moving forward, we should comply with the development agreement. Or retroactively, I don't think we should rip it all out. And that's all. So I'd welcome your motion again.
So I would renew my motion to table this for a month while the issues related to the water valves are settled.
I will second again.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Can I just confirm that this has no impact on the issue of occupancy or new building
I
permits?
think Assistant Director Zader said we'll work through that. We'll be able to work through that for the next month till we talk about it again, since we're now openly talking and cooperating and trying to come back into some form of compliance. We just don't know what that might be yet because of the sticky wicket with sticky valves.
Good.
So I think
Thank you.
we'll have a month where we'll pretend this issue doesn't exist until we get more info.
Should I call the roll, Mayor?
Please.
Commissioner Bach,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoker,
Aye.
Commissioner Gentis,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Goldberger, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Mayor Nurbin.
Aye. We'll
Item is tabled.
hopefully get together next month with more info. Thank you. See you soon. That brings us to our last item on the agenda. Policy item, a text amendment to allow for banquet facilities and conference centers in the B2 zoning district.
Yes, this was requested, I don't believe she's here, but this was requested by the owner of the property on Port Washington Road. I have the screen, this is right next to the life storage building. I think they were here a couple times in the past for some building and site plan approvals. They're currently still under construction. She recently approached us and asked if she would be able to do a banquet facility in there. I don't think she has a tenant in mind, but we said, no, it's not allowed in the district. So then she asked the process. I said the process would be to ask for a formal text amendment, which she did. So what we ended up doing is looking at her request, which was banquet facilities and conference centers in the B2 zoning district. But since we're evaluating this, we figured we'd look at it holistically across the city. We came to the conclusion that those are two separate and distinct kind of uses, and they may be appropriate in some zoning districts and not others. So we have in your packet, I put in a definition for what a banquet facility is versus what a conference center is. One is more based, the conference center will be based on exposition halls, exhibits, things like that. It's cultural, civic events, conferences, where a banquet facility would be like a entertainment type venue for wedding receptions, meetings, things like that. So based on those definitions, we looked at our zoning code and we determined that the B2 would be, I think, beneficial for both of those uses. We looked at the B4, the Uleo Creek Mixed Use District for the convention center, and then Town Center and Arrival Corridor for the banquet facility and reception halls. We added a condition, they're all conditional uses, they would be in the code. And we added that in the Town Center and Arrival Corridor, we'd limit their square footage, which is similar to what we do with other uses in the Town Center and Arrival Corridors, kind of limit their scale. So if the commission is okay with this would go on to Common Council for first reading and a public hearing and ultimately action in December. So if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from commissioners? I think it looks like a welcome addition, and as you noted in the packet, maybe something that might be sorely needed, especially on the east side. There's really nothing there. The most exciting place to have a meeting is the funeral home. I've been to a few there. One the topic was the state of business in Mequon. It was kind of that was 10 years ago when I first got into this. I thought it was a really odd choice for a venue. There just was no other place. And business is not dead in Mequon, so you shouldn't have it at a funeral home. But so thank you for your work on this. Any further comments from commissioners? Alderman Parrish. Commissioner Parrish, sorry.
I'm the liaison for the Economic Development Board, so I just wanted to relay that they have concerns about this building. They brought it up several times. Mostly its physical appearance. I realize we're not talking about the building itself. We're talking about the code. But I'm in favor of facilities and banquet centers. I agree we need more of them. I have concerns about the building. I hope you relay to the applicant that just because we're doing the use doesn't mean we're okay with the building as it is.
Right, we're working with her to try to achieve some sort of compliance as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
You need a formal motion?
Yes, we do actually, if you could vote on that.
Well,
All right.
I
We
would
got the
motion to approve, recommending this to the council. Second.
And a second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes on to the council. That brings us to everyone's, oh, wait a minute, announcements. Next meeting, November 21st. Does that work for everyone? It's conspicuously close to one of the informal state holidays of deer hunting season. Monday before. So we'll try to scrape together a quorum, maybe hopefully a few more than tonight, but we might need you again. I don't know.
Stay home.
We appreciated your input, even if Jack didn't like it. If that sounds good, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. We're adjourned.